Good morning, everybody. Time for healing with the blues. Healing with the blues. That's right, I'm healing with the blues. I've got nothing left to lose. That's why I'm healing with the blues. Such a pain inside. The love that's there for me, I have denied. I've never had the blues this long, this deep, this wide. That's why I'm healing with the blues. It's great to be with you this morning in this incredibly frigid temperatures that we're having here in Iowa right now. I think we have maybe 0 degrees right now. So we're warm inside though, so that's good. And this morning we're going to be talking with Cheri here, but I want to just ask you this question. What does enlightenment feel like? What does it feel like when you have a moment of aha? What does that feel like in your body? What does it feel like in your mind and your emotions? So I want you to be thinking about that a little bit while we're having this talk, because Cheri does some amazing things. And I want to just tell you right now, I heard about what she does, and I thought this is something that people need to know more about. And so I wanted to share with you, what she does. And I can't find where you sent me that bio, but Cheri is a wonderful dysgraphia expert. She's a keynote speaker. She's a workshop facilitator. She's a community builder, and she also hosts her own podcast. So I want to introduce you to Cheri. Here you go, Cheri. Tell us more about what you do.
Hello, Tanya. It is great to be here. Excuse me. Thank you. It is not quite that cold here in Pennsylvania. It is more in the 30s from what I understand, but I have not been out the door to find out. So what do? I help teachers, therapists, and parents understand what dysgraphia is. We're developing a community to support each other, and I'm creating professional development to create competency to share with others.
You know, the thing that caught my ear about this when we were talking about before, when I was listening to you talk about it, was the trouble that people that I know have creating a written word, because there's so much going on up here, and trying to get down to the point of a pencil or a pen is just overwhelming. So can you tell us about what dysgraphia is and what it is?
Yes, dysgraphia, by the definition in the DSM-5, is basically all those structures that you need to create sentences and paragraphs: grammar, punctuation, capitalization, sentence structure, nouns and verbs and participles all in the right place, and then the creativity and the sequencing to create a paragraph that is effective and makes total sense. What people think it is problems with fine motor skills and problems with illegibility. Now, those are some of the symptoms and some of the appearances that happen. But if you look at the definition inside the DSM-5, that's what it says. What it says it is not is neurological, psychological disorders, visual and auditory disorders. It's really what people think it is and what it says it is aren't quite in alignment. What I'm doing is I'm working with K-5 teachers primarily, but across the entire education curriculum, at teaching how to provide strategies for these kids that are struggling and can't learn it. So there's another piece, though, to dysgraphia, and that is post-neurological incident, like a stroke or some dementia-related impact, where you can't read the person's writing, and they have to relearn it. Relearning is another way of saying rehabilitation. These kids that are like K-5 haven't needed to.
Right. They
haven't learned it already. They need to habituate it. So it's called habituation. And so we're trying to work on that development to help habituate the technique of writing. And it's
What's the
really
way that
hard.
people notice this at the beginning with a child in school? And the reason why we're talking about this is because if this happens in childhood and it's not taken care of, there's a lot of things that can result from this. So can you
Yeah,
tell
and
me?
it really, it's the developmental delay. It is not a developmental, it's going to hack your life, because it is really, it's the neurons need to grow. And reading, writing, and math create different neurological pathways, and each pathway is going to grow at its own speed.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people hear the word dyslexia and they associate it all together. And it's really, there's a piece where you have to put stuff down on paper. That's the graph part. So when you're taking information in, you're reading, that's a sensory part. And when we do anything that's motor, that's putting it back out to the world.
Yeah.
If it's on paper, it's the graphia. If it's oral, it's praxic. You know, the oral has to do with the ability to motor, move your mouth. So we have kids that also have trouble with dyspraxia, which is of speech. And that is the difficulty with forming the words. So there's this whole gamut of neurological process that happens, and then integrate that into the ability to access math and social studies and music and art and all of those subject matters. They all come together, but we still have reading and writing as the core piece to literacy. And there's been a lot of talk and a lot of research on the reading part, and writing has kind of come along with a little bit with it, because a lot of people complain about spelling and they don't realize the complexity of writing.
Yeah, how much goes into that is so amazing. When you're studying anatomy and physiology, you realize it's a miracle that any of us are born with the face on the front of our head and ears on either side. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that we all come out pretty much the same. But there's lots of little differences that happen. And with the neurological maturing of a human being from 0 to 5, let's say, I mean, it's just nothing but a sponge taking in all this information. So then when there's a gap in that, it can really be like really a gaping hole that you think, oh, this is okay, I can just skip over this. But really, it's really hard to. It's really hard to manage that. I want to just say also that, you know, Cheri's written her book, Handwriting, Brain Body Disconnect, is something that it might be great for any parent to read, because you're going to get some insight about how the brain is working so that you can help your child. I wish I'd had this book about 25 years ago, because my son was having trouble in that area. But all they said to me when we were, oh, he's kind of subclinical and all these things, he needs tutoring. And I was like, I don't know that that's really what the problem was. Now he writes poetry now, he writes all kinds of things, but it was really obvious that there was something completely missing in what they were teaching him and how he was getting it. So one of those, they may have lined up together. So there was this area that was missing, but you know, to try to move past that and continue on in school is very difficult.
Well, you mentioned something about 25 years ago. 25 years ago, I was in college probably for the first time. Maybe it was even a little bit longer than that at this point in time. But my first real, I know I always struggled with reading and writing. And it wasn't that I couldn't read, that I have convergence insufficiency. Now, here's another term that I'm throwing out at you people, and you're going, what does that mean? So basically, my eyes don't work together to be able to read off the page, and they get tired so fast that I can read a short amount of time, and then I'm like, okay, I got to go to sleep now because I got to rest my eyes. So and then the comprehension wasn't there. And so because I had this difficulty with taking in the information, bringing it back out was difficult. And I had my first paper in college as an undergrad. It was 2 pages. And I don't know if you remember the electric typewriter and onion paper.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that was my favorite.
Okay. It took me an entire ream. Now, they came in like 25 in that ream. I went through 25 sheets of paper to get a 2-page paper typed because I struggled so hard with understanding sentence structure and spelling in college. And it only took me until after I graduated the 3rd time and getting a master's degree that I went, aha. It took that many years of education for me to put it all together.
So can you see why it's important for us to be talking to Cheri right now? Because she's saving us so much time. How many years? I mean, my gosh, it's amazing. I'm so grateful.
Oh gosh, how old was I when I finally got it out of my master's program? Michael was around 9. So I had 2 children by that point. My son was 9 when I graduated from college with my master's degree. He hated me for it. I made him go to graduation.
Experiences, yes.
Just to experience it. And it was only after that experience that I transitioned into school-based therapy. And I was into school-based therapy a couple years before I went, there's this connection.
Yes.
I expected, after working in adult rehab for many years, always in neuro, that what happens after a stroke and what happens with kids is going to really align up. It doesn't. It doesn't necessarily line up because of that rehabilitation and relearning versus learning for the first time. So that learning for the first time takes a lot more intensity, targeted, daily, strategic interventions.
Yeah. And, you know, it reminds me of like when you're sitting in a car that's not moving, you have to use 1st gear, which has so much more power than 4th gear to get that car moving. And that's what we're talking about is what do you have to do in order to get that that understanding and that skill ready for the next level of learning. It takes a lot.
And then there's these moments where you have kids who will understand, like one time they'll get it, they'll do it right. Three letters later, it's backwards or it's a capital and it's supposed to be a lowercase and it's not there. There is this development. It's kind of like that same analogy with the 1st gear. To get into the 2nd gear, we're going to be making mistakes because the brain is still trying to figure out the automatic answer to the question. So automaticity and efficiency are like the end goal, and that's 4th gear. There's a lot of block in between. And I will tell you this, teachers, therapists, parents get very frustrated when that kids are in that middle gap where one moment they got it and the next moment they don't. And what the basic skill that you need when you've got a kid who's in that fluctuating state is put the visual cue in front of them so that they can see it, they can refer to it, and they don't have to rely on their memory until they don't need it anymore. And
so
sometimes
when you say visual cue, that's a little buzzword. So you need to tell us what that means. What's visual cue?
Okay.
What's a visual cue that you would put in front of them?
Right. That could mean having all of their alphabet and their numbers on the desk on a strip in front of them so that they always have it available to them. It could mean having a checklist of do this first, or first, second, third, and have a checklist of what you should do in the right order. It could mean, like for the letter B, if they're really struggling with remembering it first, letter B, big line first, then the backwards C, or whatever language you're going to use for that letter, but be consistent in the language from pre-K through 5th grade. Inconsistency in language and teaching it is half of these kids' battles. Because if they go to one classroom and they're saying do it this way, an
Right.
hour later they go to another classroom and they're saying do it a different way, that creates that confusion gap,
Dissonance,
and the kids get in that middle category and just can't get out of it.
So I work with people clearing neurological patterns that are subconscious emotional memories that are creating a pattern that runs subconsciously. Obviously, it's not conscious. So can you talk a little bit about what that mechanism is that happens that may be not quite lining up?
Is it okay if I go a little bit neuro on you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we have what we call the sensory motor system in our body. So maybe your friends have heard that before. So you've got these senses that are going on in your body that go up to through your brainstem and into your brain.
Mhm.
They aren't just eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and skin. There's
Mhm.
also a couple more. And those are sensations deep within your joints that are called proprioception, that tells the joint how much pressure to put and connect that to the muscles so that they can keep the joint stable. So it could be
When
the
I
knee
reach
joint.
forward, my arm actually goes forward instead of off to the side. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. But like in a knee, when we're jumping, how much pressure does that knee need to resist and control the muscles around that joint
Mhm.
to have that up and down movement without losing your balance?
Right.
It's the same when you're writing. When you're writing, it doesn't matter whether you're writing on the wall, like on a whiteboard, or you're writing on a piece of paper. The motor movement to write a single letter is exactly the same thing.
Mhm.
So one of the things that happens from the emotional standpoint is if we get this sensory input that says, hey, you need to be writing, it comes in through the sensory systems. Oh, I forgot to talk about vestibular, but that's okay.
That's okay.
It comes in through the sensory systems, comes up through the brainstem, and comes into the middle of your brain called the limbic system. And in the limbic system, that's like a filter. How much of this information is going to go up to the outside of the brain, the cortex? How much of it is going to be an automatic response? How much of it can we just put that aside? So for example, if you touch your finger to the back of your palm, at first you feel it, then all of a sudden, you know it's still there, but you don't really feel it anymore. That's that limbic system going, oh, you've been touched. Oh, it's a safe one. Just ignore
Yeah,
it.
you don't need to worry about that anymore. You don't need to
Right.
think about that. We talk about how the body sorts out what's not necessary for survival. That's what it's doing.
Right. These kids who are struggling to have that, remember, how do I make the B? How do I make the B? How do I make the B? Their brain is saying, oh, the saber-toothed tiger is coming. You better watch it, and you better stand up for your
Well,
own
folks, have you
survival.
heard this before? I talk about fight or flight all the time. You've heard it, and now you're hearing it again. Go ahead.
So it says, no way, don't do that, because it's going to attack your life. So your brain is trying to preserve itself. And if there is something, it can't tell that whether it really, that fear, that emotion that's being created is a positive or a negative fear. It just knows fear as fear.
That's right.
Knows as that. So actually excitement and nervousness are the same thing going on in your brain. So we got these kids who are constantly getting that feedback, because especially in like kindergarten and first grade, even today with all the technology, they still need to learn how to write. 60% of their day is with a pencil in their hand. So if you've got a kid who's got some, I don't want that, what's going to happen all day long?
So let
we're
me
going
just
to
interject here,
behavior
because this
issues.
is exactly what we talk about when we're talking about balancing the nervous system from fight or flight to rest, digest, and heal. And we're doing tapping, going, I'm so scared. I don't know how to write this letter. I'm going to get in trouble. I can't do this. I feel fear right now. And while you're tapping on these points, you're creating the fight or flight to go down so that rest, digest, and heal can come up. So tapping with children is a very good thing to do, because now they're learning, oh, when I get that feeling of fear, I can just tap right here and it will go down. And I can take care of my own state of being by just naming what's going on. And it's okay. I'm okay. And I own my feelings. I acknowledge my feelings. I honor my feelings. So one of the ways that we do this with anybody is, remember, when you're in fight or flight response, you can't think well, you can't make good decisions. I mean, think about it when you're like super angry or upset about something. You can't, I mean, my kids used to make fun of me and say, you're not even making sense. I'm like, that's right, because I'm so upset right now. Because you can't have that fine delineation between what you want to say and how you want to get it out there and what's going on emotionally, because it takes over. So balancing that nervous system, this is how important it is. I don't know any other way to explain this to you, except Cheri's doing a great job telling you that it shows up in writing. It shows up in children as they're trying to get through what's going on in their life.
So one of the things that I'm sharing with the teachers is how to prepare the entire classroom for a writing task. One of the activities that I share with teachers, I'm going to share with you right now. And what I ask the teachers to do is get the kids to put their palms up in front of us. So come on, Tanya, do it with me. Put your palm up in front of you. You're going to take that palm and put it parallel to the ceiling and give your arms a good stretch. Stretch the stretch. Come on, push the abdomen together, push it back to your tailbone. Now close your eyes. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And then we can bring it down. The next time we do that, we might add walking on your toes versus your heels, because that's going to change that vestibular response. I mentioned the word vestibular before. By getting the vestibular system, and basically all the vestibular system is doing is trying to keep your head upright, perpendicular to the ground and up towards the sky. So that's why when kids are going on a roller coaster, when you get off, it's like, okay, where did my brain go? You're swaying all over the place for a few moments.
You've heard me talk about this. We call it the writing reflex. That means you're upright, not writing, but upright. Right. So the writing reflex, and remember in the Empower March, we're doing the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. So
we'll do the toes and the heels, and we'll watch, and I teach the teachers how to watch the students and look at what they're doing. And then if it's safe for most of the group to do it, then the next step is to close their eyes and do it and see how the balance changes, because taking with the vestibular system is very dependent on your eyes. Taking your eyes away. Taking your eyes away changes the entire response.
Absolutely. It really does. And we're doing this stuff all the time. And you guys have noticed this when I'm talking about the Empower March, talking about updating your neurology. This is what we're doing when we do those kinds of exercises. We're updating our neurology to present time, not doing something from the past. Cheri, we're almost out of time, so I want to just thank you so much for being here this morning. We had a little technical issue, so it was okay. We actually made it here. This is good. And I'm going to put a link below in the comments so you can get a hold of Cheri. Did you want to say anything before we're done?
Just that I believe that we can transcend life for all of these kids so that regardless of their disability, they can become the next generation of leaders. So let's raise that next generation of leaders to be powerful communicators.
Yeah, because that's what it's all about, communicating in relationships. That's a major part of how we live here on earth. So thank you so much, Cheri. I really appreciate it. If you wanted to put the link that you want people to use to contact you in the chat here, I can take care of that. And
yeah, and that's cheridotterer.com. My name is CheriDotterer, cheridotterer.com.
Thank you so much, Cheri. We're gonna do a little bit of healing right now. If you kind of want to stick around, that's fine. If you need to go, feel free to sign off, that's fine. And thank you again, Cheri. I think this is great information for people, and we'll put her link below in the comments. Anybody watching the replay will be able to get that too. Thank you so much, Cheri.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be here. You enjoy your meditation time. I have a task that I'm in the process of needing to get out today, so I do need to go. So thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Isn't it fun to be able to find out that there's other people that are also coming at what we're doing from a completely different angle? She is trying to educate educators, parents, other therapists and teachers to help people understand what we can do for that. Did you notice how she went right into the neurological and talked about some of the same things that we talk about in healing? It's all the same thing, folks. You can, it's holographic. Truth is holographic. You can get one little part of it and it shows you everything, and it's always there. So I just want to remind you that there's healing going on in all kinds of ways. This is one of the ways that struck me as something that people need to hear about, people need to understand. And I think it's just amazing the work Cheri's doing. And she's an award-winning therapist. She's really been doing some work. So please get in touch with her if you have any questions. She's wonderful. She had to run quick, but I want to talk about this a little bit, but really what I want to do is not talk about it, but I want to do something about it. So I want you to go with me into this for just a moment, like we were doing with tapping. Tap right here, and you can repeat after me. If you'd like, you can change words if you want. I'm so afraid I'm going to get this wrong. I try so hard and it doesn't really work, and I'm going to get in trouble because I'm not going along with everybody else. I'm not at their speed. I'm not in the same place as everyone else. And it makes me feel less than. And I always feel like I'm behind. And I know that that's true. I'm right about that. I'm not where everybody else is. And it's frustrating, upsetting, and sometimes I get really sad about it. And this is just how I feel. And I acknowledge my feelings. I say what my feelings are. I own my feelings. They're my feelings. And I honor my feelings. Take a deep breath. Every child that was having school had somebody in their life that did that with them, that helped them to identify their feelings and release that fear. You just heard Cheri talk about that fight or flight response. It's what we're dealing with almost all the time. So let's do the things that we know to do. Take a deep breath in, all the way up through your crown chakra, up into source energy, up into the center of the universe, wherever that is. And as you exhale, that energy come back down through all layers, all levels, down through all the chakras, down through the center of your being, down through your feet, into the floor, into the core of the earth. As I say words in the I am for everyone listening. God is all there is. Love is all there is. Light, life, and source energy is all there is. And I recognize right here and right now that I am one with God, love, light, life, and source energy. I'm never separated from this energy. It's part of me. I'm part of it. We're always together. And if I feel separated, I know it's a false feeling. And all I have to do is put my attention on my breath, take a deep breath in, inviting inspiration, inviting source in, and exhale gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for this moment where I can unburden myself of any fear that I'm having about anything, who I am in the world, how I compare to others. Not a great idea, comparing ourselves to others, but how I actually show up in the world. And I can rest in knowing that I know how to take care of feelings. I know how to take care of myself. I know that what's happening in my life is happening for me and not to me. And as I reap the rewards of opening up to more that's out there for me, I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to know I can do that, that there's help for me, there's help for my loved ones. I can actually put my attention on receiving assistance and get it, and then say yes to it and thank you for it. So I want to thank all my guides, guardians, and angels, all my spirit helpers on the other side of that thin veil. And I want to thank those here in the physical plane that are showing me all the infinite possibilities that there are in life. I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful, grateful, grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, Source. Thank you, whoever. I'm so grateful. And I authorize my subconscious to dissolve any contractions or constrictions that are keeping me from my highest good. Like the contraction of, I have to do it all on my own. Release that, dissolve that. The contraction of, how am I going to do whatever? How am I going to do? How? I release that constriction. I don't have to know how. I just have to ask for what I want and receive it when it shows up. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I say that it's so, and I let it go, knowing that it's already done. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Now, as always, you can change any words that you want, whatever fits for you. It's not really that important to me that you believe exactly the way I do, because I can't get into your brain and have all the experiences that you've had. But what's important is that you make the decision about what you believe and how you want to believe it, how you want it to show up in your life. Just let it happen and see what happens. Be open to the possibilities, the infinite possibilities. I'm so grateful to be with you today. I know we went a little bit over time. I hope as you're watching the replay that you get all of this information and that you can use it to your highest good. Have a blessed day with Healing with the Blues. Bye now.